If I'm simplifying radicals, your goal for taking the square root or cube root of an actual number is pulling out any perfect squares or cubes, values to the fourth power, so on and so forth. For variables, you want to pull out groups of that root number. So if it's the square root, you want to pull out groups of 2. If it's a cube root, you want to pull out groups of 3. So for radicals, you can either take one radical and split it up, or take two radicals if they have the same root number and combine it in one, depending on if it's easier to do either way. And if I have a root of a term with multiple parts, I can split it up to think of it individually. So this one, I'd have the cube root of negative 27, the cube root of x to the 8th, and the cube root of y to the 6th. So the cube root of negative 27, you could type right in your calculator using the math button. The cube root of negative 27 is going to be negative 3. Then I want to figure out how many groups of 3 I can pull out of x to the 8th. So I'd have 2 groups of 3, which is taking up 6 of the x's. So I'm still going to have 2 x's left underneath the cube root, because I can't pull them all out. And I want how many groups of 3 I can pull out of y to the 6, which would also be 2 groups. But I won't have any left over because 2 groups of 3 would give me 6 of them. So that's simplified all the way. For the next one, if I were to leave this under one radical and simplify it first, because 128 is divisible by 4, I would divide that first. So if I divide it, I'm going to get the square root of 32. X to the 5th divided by x is going to give me x to the 4th. And y to the 3rd divided by y squared is going to give me 1y on top. So I want to figure out if I could take the square root of 32. If I take the square root of 32, I'm going to get a decimal, because it's not a perfect square. So I want to figure out what perfect squares go into 32. I know I can have the square root of 16 times 2 will give me 32, and 16 is a perfect square. So I still have x to the 4th and y. You can split it up, you really don't have to, but if you have difficulty on understanding radicals, I suggest you do split it up. So the square root of 16, the square root of 2, square root of x to the 4th, and the square root of y. So I can take the square root of 16, that will be 4. I can't take the square root of 2, so I'm going to leave that underneath the square root. I can take the square root of x to the 4th, because I want groups of 2, so that will give me 2 groups of 2, so I'm going to pull that out, so it would be x squared. But I can't take the square root of y, because I only have one of them, so y is going to stay underneath this square root symbol.